That's right, my friends. It is really late here on a Saturday night, but it's probably early where you are in the United States of America. Or it could be Sunday or Wednesday. I don't know. This is not a Craig David song, but WWE Bash in Berlin has just finished. Boy, oh boy, do I like these crazy time differences. So let's get into the meat and bones of the show. Now, we did indeed start with Cody Rhodes versus Kevin Owens for the WWE Super Duper Whooper title. And listen, the reason I think you could get away with putting this first is nobody thought Cody Rhodes was going to lose this championship, right? It just was never going to happen. If Kevin Owens had have won, I mean, I would have loved it. I sometimes think that Kevin Owens may be my favorite modern day pro wrestler, but it just wasn't the time. Like, sometimes you can smell the tea leaves and it just gets in your nostrils. You're like, oh my gosh, we've got to do this. I do not believe we should have done that on this day. But what it did allow us to do, as Cody Rhodes has done with AJ Styles and everybody else that he has fought so far. I mean, maybe less so Solo Sikoa, because that tied into a bigger storyline. I do understand the criticism that some people have that Cody isn't really having these over-the-top, maybe WWE-focused championship narratives. And instead, what we're doing is we're taking a lot of them and we're putting them like in little gift packages. That's what we did with AJ. We did one, then we went away, then we came back again with the fake retirement. And it could be what we're doing with Kevin Owens as well, because the whole thing to this was that Kevin Owens on SmackDown had said, oh, Cody, you've hurt your knee. I don't want to take advantage of that, because I didn't hurt my knee. Quite clearly hurt his knee. And when he went for the second or third Cody cutter, his knee went, but Kevin Owens wasn't able to capitalize on this. Wade Barrett then had a meltdown commentary. He couldn't handle it. But then Kevin did go after the knee, and he was going to hit the powerbomb into the ring apron, which has been his signature heel move. That's what he did to Sami Zayn when he first got into NXT. He wasn't able to do it, and he missed a swanton. He got hit by a crossroads, although he'd already taken 2 crossroads, 1, 2, 3. Now, afterwards, they did embrace. But I totally believe that at some point, maybe even this year, maybe we'll hold off to 2025, Kevin Owens is probably going to go on a little bit of a bad guy run, mostly because it's just time to turn him. Again, we just talked about this. Sometimes it just feels like that's the right thing to do. And as soon as you get to that juncture, you could revisit the Cody thing. If Cody isn't the champion, then maybe Kevin Owens can get a win, which would be huge, because Cody Rhodes is one of the biggest, if not the biggest stars in the company. And overall, I just thought it was a great match. Like, they really laid their stuff in because they are buddies. I like the fact you had the overhanging fruit of the knee, which didn't really come into play until the end. But there's also other subplots here, which was, oh my gosh, Cody Rhodes is going to do a bunch of submission moves, even though that's not really what Cody Rhodes would have expected. Not Cody Rhodes, what Kevin Owens would have expected. But then again, it does make sense, because you don't want to get into a slugfest with KO, because he will whip your ass. Now, it did make me laugh that Cody's big grand plan here was to use the figure 4. I was like, bro, that's less successful than the Blue Thunder Bomb. It didn't beat anybody. It was Ric Flair's signature move, and it never beat anybody. You probably need to come up with another submission. So it's very, very strange. It's become kind of a calling card of the so-called B pay-per-views. And I think that's why WWE benefit from going to a France or a Puerto Rico or Germany here, because the fans are so into it. They're so happy they're getting to see this live that if it was done in front of maybe a slightly quieter crowd, you would need some extra wabang and extra shabazz. But because you know you have the crowd, which is the whole point of professional wrestling, you can kind of go old school with it and just build a nice structured match, which, like I say, did I actually believe that Cody Rhodes was going to win even after the stunners and what else? No, I just didn't think it was going to happen. I may be wrong here. I don't think Kevin Owens hit the pop-up power bomb, and I think that may come around in the future to be his proper move, maybe when he does have a heel turn. But to me, it was just, like I say, a good old traditional hard-hitting WWE match, and when Cody Rhodes won, everybody was happy, and Kevin Owens looked a bit sad, and it's something that we can talk about down the line. Oh, why didn't I go back to being the old evil Kevin Owens, and now I could have been the WWE champion? I don't really think you need to do more than that. I think sometimes when we sit down with these shows, we have to understand that whatever we want to call the new era of WWE, they are going to act in like, well, ups and downs, ironically, or peaks and troughs, or like a roller coaster. So this one was still cool because it was a premium live event, but you're not going to get any, like, you know, sit down crying going, I can't believe I got to experience that moment. And so far, I think I'm okay with it. Again, I go back to the AJ Styles matches. Totally wonderful, especially that first one in Backlash that felt very similar to this one. And it was the same here at Bash in Berlin. So maybe it has something to do with the word B in pay-per-view titles. I do not know. And I can understand somebody coming up with a criticism of this and say, well, after the fact, it kind of felt like nothing. I get that. You could break it down that way, but I think it depends why you watch professional wrestling. I just want to be entertained, right? I don't need swerves and twists and turns all the time. I'd find that a little bit boring. Cody Rhodes goes on as WWE champion. Maybe he's going to have another match with Solo, but I doubt it. I think Roman Reigns is going to get involved. And if you want to keep KO face for a little bit, you can do. but we've also planted those seeds. So yeah, it was perfectly serviceable, solid stuff, but you had the atmosphere, you had the crowd, and they're just so good at whatever you want to call WWE style wrestling. I was a fan. And really, you can take everything I've just said and copy and pasted it for Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair taking on the unholy Julian Pure Fusion Collective. Or whatever the flub they're called, Isla Dawn and Alba Fire, because they just had a match and we changed the tag team titles. Now, I'm glad that we've done this because at least the women's tag team championships are being featured on PLEs, or whatever the hell you want to call them. It's massively important because there is a great division here. There are so many teams that actually could be entered into the thing, but we have to make the titles mean something first. And I think right now, actually on the cusp of maybe getting them back to where they were at one point, I would argue when Sasha Banks and Naomi walked out, that's when they really sort of hit the floor, mostly because I think it tainted the titles themselves, but whatever. That's years ago. We don't need to worry about it. And we did go out of our way to say, look how great of a team Alba Fire and Isla Dawn are. Like, they were able to cut Bianca Belair off, they were using her hair, but essentially Jade Cargill got the tag and she ran wild, right? She did all these power moves. I think Wade Barrett called her like a wrecking machine or a one-woman army or something. I really do think that's all she needs to do. I've said this a lot of time and people get mad. That's fine. Comments are down there. When you are there, like, subscribe, and look in the description box and go click all the things. Why the hell not, right? But the big question, I saw it again on social media, is Jade Cargill any better now she has been in WWE for a year? I couldn't give a flub. I don't care what she's doing in her personal life when it comes to training. I just care about what she does on my screen. Maybe this is her role, right? Everybody has different roles, and maybe her role is to be, it's a terrible comparison, but it's the only thing I can think of, so it's late here, man. It's like 10 p.m. It's very Goldberg-like. Oh, wow, she's really good at running wild. She's really good at kicking people's asses. She's not so good at this stuff, so let's focus on the strength and not big up the weaknesses so much. It's what Paul Heyman built ECW on, and I can completely understand it, so I can't get mad at it. Watch, I'll try. No, I can't do it. Because once again, it was super duper fun. Alba Fire and Isla Dawn bumped their ass off because they understand the assignment. Bianca Belair is just tremendous. Like, whether she was selling or when she was on top, she's a fantastic babyface. And I guess the only negative point I'll bring in here is that we have to get her back into a singles program for a women's singles championship at some point, because I think she's top tier talent, although that will only be helping Jade Cargill. And eventually, after we teased the hot tag, we got the hot tag, then it was Jade and Bianca that used their smart tag team skills. They cut off, I think Isla Dawn got thrown to the outside into Barrier Barricade, but whatever. They hit their big double suplex thingamajig, and they just won. Once again, you could say maybe it was kind of anticlimactic, but the goal here was just to tell you, this is our Road Warriors, this is our Demolition, this is our Legion of Doom, and if they are going to be in a one-on-one match, there's not going to be any shenanigans, they're going to get the 3. Now, I just need follow-up to all of this, okay? I don't want to run through a bunch of tag teams here because I'll forget. But we have a lot of trios, and we have people like Piper Niven and Chelsea Green that could be entered into this. I just really want there to be a plan all the way through to WrestleMania. I don't want them to vanish. I'm cool with Jade and Bianca losing them at some point because they fall out and we do that singles match at WrestleMania, and then they go their separate ways. But I need the women's tag team titles involved at some point too. So, I mean, there is nothing else to say about it. Like, it was we understand the assignment. Again, I'm using the same words. We understand what we need to do here. So we're going to go out there and do it. And we had the loud crowd, which made it feel better than probably it was. But these are all elements that you need in any wrestling show, right? When we get to the main event, that's going to summarize it the best. But if you're going out there and you know the crowd are going to buy whatever you give them, sometimes less is more, because you're doing things to get a reaction, but you've always got the reaction, so you can change things around a little bit. But what's more, I mean, I don't want to start putting numbers on these things. I'll do it for chibs and giggles. I'll just do like out of 5, because that's me. But I would give... But this thing is the problem, because it's all about story. From the bottom of my heart, it means nothing, right? I may as well give it flubble sticks out of Numpty Land, right? But I would probably give the first match a 4 out of 5, and I'd give this one a 3 out of 5. But I get it. You'll now go, but what about this match? I understand that. This is why it's meaningless. The point is, it was serviceable. And sometimes serviceable is fine, because the whole time people going absolutely crazy, it made me feel good. Which kind of actually works with Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk in the strap match, because maybe, as they had so much story, and they had a year's worth of build, if you want to argue it that way, they were able to bring extra elements into it. I mean, it's just both of them are so obsessed with story. It's absolutely wonderful. So we had this idea that neither of them actually wanted to win the match, which was just touching all 4 turnbuckles, because it was a strap match. We had the idea of the bracelet, and we had the idea that Drew McIntyre continues to be the biggest hypocrite ever, because he's like, oh, CM Punk always attacks me from behind. I don't like it. So what did Drew do at the start? He attacked CM Punk from behind, and he brutalized this guy. But then CM Punk hits a GTS out of nowhere. They were getting all kinds of weapons at some point too. It was pretty damn brutal. given that it was a strap match and you could do whatever you want. Some of the things we were doing with chairs was like, oh my gosh. CM Punk took this crazy bump too. You think he was going for his bulldog, and Drew just grabbed him and threw him over the top rope through a table. It's like, we're doing that now. But of course, because it meant that Punk was dead weight, Drew McIntyre then had to pick him up like a child and march around the ring so he could hit the turnbuckles too. I like little things like that. I think we put thought into this, and we've kind of built it in a certain way, because the match is kind of stupid, right? Who wins this? Oh, you have to touch the 4 turnbuckle pads, and somebody had even built traffic lights. It was somebody's job in WWE production to build red light, green light. And red light means nobody has touched this pad. And green light means, oh, it's okay. Somebody has touched the pad. That's how WWE sees us. We're moronic and we need visual cues. But it does kind of tie into the idea here, because you can get excited. Oh my gosh, we have 3 green lights. We only need 1 more. And the ending was pretty cut and dry here. Like, CM Punk just whooped this guy's ass. He hit GTS after GTS after GTS. He then remembered the bracelet, so he took the bracelet back. He put it on his wrist. Bam. He touches the 4 turnbuckle pad. Bob's your uncle. CM Punk has got a win. And now they both can kind of argue it, because obviously Drew McIntyre's win at SummerSlam was tainted because of Seth Rollins. And now Drew can be like, well, you never pinned me, bro, because you just touched some pads. Big whoop. We can all do that. What are you, 8 years old? It's kind of interesting, because they totally tricked me, and this is why I thought it was really smart. They did a double swerve almost. CM Punk had the sharpshooter locked in, and you had the visual tap of Drew McIntyre. And I was like, oh, there you go. That's going to win now, because he can win, but CM Punk can say, oh, but I would have beat you if it was a normal match. But he didn't. Punk went on to win. I would imagine that Bad Blood was still going to do a steel cage or a Hell in a Cell or something like that. But out of contest, this probably wouldn't have made much sense. But again, if you had been watching all the Raws and everything they've been doing since the Royal Rumble, like Drew McIntyre pretended he was going to do the Future Dog DDT on Alan the announce table, but Punk stopped him, and that's how he tore his tricep first time around. So you have all these beats that just make you go, yeah, I'm so happy I wasted all of my life watching Raw since January 2024, and that rhymes, so it must be true. And I think you'd still get something out of this if you came into it cold. Maybe for some reason you're a German, you're like, oh wow, WWE's in town, I'll get back into WWE. But I do think it was better than the SummerSlam match, even though that makes me a hypocrite because I don't like comparing. I think they both work as sort of companion pieces. And I think it goes to show. Don't forget, there's only CM Punk's 4th match since he returned to WWE. So there still is a novel nature to it. I thought he did great. And Drew McIntyre's just doing the best work of his career. He just is. He has cemented himself as a top guy. I hope he does get a proper run with the World Heavyweight Championship or whichever belt after he kind of screwed him over at WrestleMania, which made perfect sense. Again, because it ties into what we're talking about here. But just really, really good. And they whooped each other's ass. And it all made sense. And there were no holes in it. And I'd also fathom that if you don't like the bracelet, which has come a little bit of a contentious point, don't worry about it because CM Punk has it back now. Although he did kiss it. I'm like, you know, Drew's had that by his groin and stuff. That's probably the worst part of the whole show. But again, it's like a 4 out of 5 on the Simon Miller scale. But also at this point too, I was still feeling jazzed from the 2 matches that I came beforehand. I think people forget about that. When a card is structured right, you do have this momentum and it kind of fills you up with adrenaline. And as soon as, you know, CM Punk comes out and this crowd was amazing, by the way. They were so damn good, especially in the first and last matches. I can't get mad at it. Like, it gave me exactly what I wanted, and I think we should do a 3rd match, and I think that will make it... That's the good thing about doing this. If Drew wins the first 2, you know Punk's going to win the last one if we are doing them in a block of 3. Whereas now I can't really call it. It all depends on what we're going to do at WrestleMania and what we're going to do with Seth Rollins when he is going to return. But once again, it was just really, really good stuff. And by this point, I was like, okay, we're over halfway through the show. Nothing sort of, you know, massive has happened, but I'm just having a good time. And that's all wrestling is to me. I'm not saying that to naysay it or downplay it, but I sat down to watch a 3-hour show, and I was like walking away with a smile on my face. Why am I going to get mad? Which brought us to Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest versus the Judgment Day. And this to me was the perfect summary of everything that we have chatted about. Because Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley wrecked these fools. When the Judgment Day came out, they wrecked them too. Like, there were some times when Liv Morgan would cast distraction and Dominic got in there a little bit and beat up Damian Priest. But otherwise, it was so much fun to watch. Again, I'm going to hammer that word home so much as we talk about this. It was entertainment. It was joyous. It was just there to make you feel good, warm and fuzzy in your tum-tum. And of course, eventually, this was the greatest. This could have been the best part of the night, which I've said twice now. Rhea Ripley is in control. She's looking at Dominic. Dominic's looking at her like, please don't hurt me. The fans are just losing their damn minds. Liv Morgan then tries to help Dommy Boy again. So Rhea Ripley smashes her with this elbow, and she took Dominic Mysterio's head off with a clothesline, and she threw him round. Oh my gosh. Talk about a wonderful payoff. And she was just like, what's even the word I'm looking? She was gleeful, right? She's probably orgasmic. She was just having such a good time. And Damian Priest was great here too. And even when the Judgment Day rushed the ring, again, you knew that was going to happen. It wouldn't have made any sense if they wouldn't have done this. Rhea and Damian just whooped all their asses. Rhea threw Carlito into the ring apron. Somebody got totally killed. I think JD McDonough got totally killed by Damian, or maybe it was Rhea. All I know that all these they just bumped their ass off of these two, and that should be the plan, because what are we trying to do right now? And I got this wrong. I thought the Judgment Day should have won. I don't know what I'm talking about. Once again, I should be shot out of a cannon. But if you are looking for two cool baby faces that you can get behind, that you can probably build your company around in the future, Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley are it. I know that Damian's in his 40s. I don't care about that. If he can go and he looks cool, what do I care? But they just dominated so much. I sat there going, I'd like to be one of these people. Like, Rhea Ripley just came across as the best wrestler I've ever seen in my life. And ultimately, if you strip it right back, she didn't do anything, but it was the way it was booked and the way it was all put together. Liv Morgan is the women's champion. I'm sure some people are mad about it, which is fair. And she did have that cool spinny slam move thing, but ultimately their plan didn't work, as in Liv and the condom. They looked like total numpties in a good way, and the Judgment Day got totally murked as well. And I sat there laughing my ass off. I was like, this is good. And at the end, you have Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley on the ropes, and Rhea is just going, ha ha ha, like, how dare you cross me? She was like Skeletor. I actually think this match is going to have incredible rewatch value. Like, I really, really do, because it was so fast, it was so intense, and it was just fun. Again, that's all I want, man. Please give me some fun in my awful, rubbish life. There were probably better matches on this show, depending on what you wanted. But if you're only going to watch one, I'd tell you to watch this one, because it's just two tanks rolling into war and coming away with the victory. And I'm sure we're probably going to do another match on Raw too. But seeing Rhea Ripley, and she did the whole leg choke thing on Dominic Mysterio, which is the thing that she did on him before he'd even gone heel, right? That's before he even got brought into the Judgment Day. Very well thought out, very well put together. Rhea Ripley is going to be an even bigger star than any of us imagined. She's already huge. And it's the same for Damian Priest. He has totally arrived. I couldn't rate this any higher. Do you know what? I'd give it a 5 out of 5 in the sense of, and I'm not saying that in terms of, oh, but Simon, Kenny Omega versus Okada. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, once again, I'm talking about entertainment here and how much I was entertained. What else could they have possibly done in this match? That's how I watch wrestling. You can say, oh, but they didn't do a Spanish fly off the top. I don't want to see a Spanish fly off the top here. I wanted to see Rhea and Damian just ruin fools. And that's what I got. I liked it so much. I'm going to say thank you very much. Doesn't make sense. When we got to our main event, Randy Orton versus Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. And oh my gosh, did we treat this like the most important thing ever? And this is when you have to bring the crowd into it. And I would imagine this is a Randy Orton thing, because he knows they're going to get a crazy reaction. He knows they're both going to be over. There'll be some cheers, there'll be some boos, depending where we are in the match. And they did nothing. And that is not a criticism. That is the biggest amount of praise I could put out there. Because once again, if the idea of a wrestling match is to get the crowd and take them on a ride, they were already there. So they did some wrestling at the start, and then they broke, and Randy Orton looked around and smiled. Then they did a little bit more wrestling, and Gunther looked around and he smiled. And you kind of had these, we'll use that word again, these peaks or these explosions of things, which meant everyone go crazy too. But it was all selling, and it was just gritty, and it was old school once again. It was just a fight. And they fought and they beat each other up. And you had this idea hanging over it, which is always important, the secret sauce of wrestling, the jeopardy, that even though Gunther only firstly won that title back at SummerSlam, it's Randy Orton. And if anybody on that roster was going to be the guy, you know what, we'll do something fun here, it absolutely would have been Randy Orton. Now, it didn't go that way, but they were just slugging it out. And if you were in the kind of mood where you wanted totally to suspend your disbelief, you could believe they actually wanted to kill each other. There was this one bit where I can't remember what Gunther did beforehand, but he ran in with a shotgun drop kick, and Randy Orton sold this like his back had disintegrated. And it kind of got me, especially when they were using Simba the Steel Steps and Alan the announce table. And it was Gunther that took the biggest pump, and Randy Orton climbed up the stairs like he was going to bed and did a super back body drop, or back suplex, I could say, through Alan the announce table. But, you know, he took a lot on his back too. And once again, he took a chop to the back at one point, and he started like, oh, I'm going to need surgery again. He's so good at doing that. He got me. I was like, oh no. Randy is hurt, because I am an absolute buffoon. But I honestly think I could run you through every single move that they did here, and it would take 5 minutes. And the match must have gone 20 plus, or around about there, I would say. I didn't time it because I'm not a loser. That's a really sad thing to do. I'm only kidding. Do not get mad. And then how did it end? With a damn sleeper. And that's because Gunther had sat down and made sure he got that move over. Randy Orton sold it wonderfully. He then realized, oh my gosh, I could RKO this guy from this position, when he got chopped on the back and just wrecked with these elbows like Gunther had joined the back backboard comeback club, and eventually Randy Orton passes out. And they only did the one thing as well. It wasn't like a 1, 2, 3 with the hand. It was one. The ref said, oh, no, he can't breathe anymore. We've got to stop this. And they also not embraced, but kind of shook hands afterwards, which to me was absolutely a passing of the torch moment. Randy letting everyone know, Gunther's the guy, man. You've got to watch him. And I guess there are similarities there. Again, it's a less is more kind of a wrestler. And, you know, we're going to get the most out of every single move that we did do. Like the splash from Gunther that we've seen time and time again was like, oh my gosh, he splashed him. And when he was trying to do the power bomb and he couldn't get Randy Orton up because he was dead, he was depleted of HP, I did it again. Like Britney Spears. I was like, well, that's it. Randy Orton is back and he's going to be out for a year. This isn't going to be to everybody's taste. I think it's already divided the online community. But, you know, going back to what I just said, there's only a couple of performers in the world that could have pulled this off. Again, they went at 5 miles per hour. I thought it was riveting. I thought it was engaging. I thought it was tremendous. And by the end, I actually didn't know who was going to win, which is always the thing you want in your main event wrestling match when a championship is on the line. I think don't buy into the rhetoric that you will see on social media. Watch it yourself and make your own mind up. Because I could totally understand inviting somebody in here and one person going, nah, it wasn't for me. Another person going, I thought this was superb. Again, it's a very, very specific match that you probably won't see again for a long time. Maybe you will, because I think Gunther absolutely sort of, he heads in that direction, I suppose. And I don't think you need to do a Randy versus Gunther 3. I think we've kind of done that now because obviously Gunther's beaten him twice. And this was pretty cut and dry, which is why it felt like a passing of the torch moment too. Another reason why it's so great to have someone like Randy in the company, because he totally gets it. It would be another 5 for me. And again, this is what I would have wanted from these two beforehand. When they were punching each other. It's like, just punching each other. Have they forgotten what pro wrestling is? And I think the other reason I dug it is because it allowed every single match on this night to stand out. Again, you had Kevin Owens and probably Cody Rhodes was most similar, but it still had its own thrill because they were doing like fisherman brainbusters from the top rope. And then the mixed tag is just a laugh ride. It's sports entertainment done right. Drew and CM Punk is very, very story focused, whereas the tag team match is just really a justification to change the tag team titles, which is totally cool. But then you got here, and given that it was in his fake hometown, I mean, Austria's just next door. If WWE wanted to send Gunther away from here, just feeling like the absolute man, then you just took that bat and you hit a home run. Genuinely, I thought this was an awesome main event, which is kind of weird because in hindsight, you could probably say the event as a whole lacked, not stakes, because titles were on the line, but it felt less important afterwards than maybe some other pay-per-views you had. But that makes sense. The Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, these are bigger shows that you would expect. But it did a great job too. Like I watched it, it was around about 3 hours long. And I think that's one of my favorite B pay-per-views we've done this year, which is high praise. And I can't even tell you why, which is a strange thing to say. I think a lot of it is because I left that main event going, again, who could have done that? Randy Orton and Gunther, and there'll be a few other people, and that's it. Some other people would try, and they just don't have the approach, I suppose, to sports entertainment to be able to pull it off. And I would also hazard a guess, this goes a lot with Gunther, that back in the Vince McMahon era, this would never have even been signed off to begin with, because he wouldn't have understood it. So, really good show, I thought. I mean, all I know is that it zoomed by for me, and that's with all WWE's extended video packages and adverts, which do get a little bit laborious, but we don't need to focus on that. We're worried about the matches too. But listen, I know I've said stuff and you don't agree, so drop me a comment below and let me know what you think. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Click the video on the screen, bam, which will be me talking about WWE or some kind of professional wrestling. Otherwise, it's GorillaMind.com/Simon. You go to Simon, get 10% off. If you'd like to train from home with Anthony Ogogo, he's a former Olympian wrestler right now, go to Ogogo Fitness, use my code Simon20. Patreon.com/Simon316, Simon316 on all social media. Simon J. Miller on TikTok, Simon Miller on video, Cameo, personalized thingamajigs. You know what I'm talking about. Pro Wrestling tees for t-shirts. Now I got to go to bed because I still got to edit this. I'll see you soon.